Hey everyone, how's it going? Sarah here, and today I wanted to talk about some of the decks I've been playing over the past couple weeks since the new set has come out in Champions TCG, since we've had set 4. I played a handful of different strategies. I played some good stuff. I played a lot of bad stuff. You can take a look at my win rate this season, and it is the worst it's ever been. It's like sub 50% because I spent a lot of time trying to refine some very bad burn decks. And I think now they're like pretty okay, and I'll be able to show you like the better lists compared to some of the weaker stuff I've been playing. But to start off, I want to show you like the actual, this deck is good, like the good deck that I have been playing of the season. And this is my Quake Sport control list. And this list is very greedy. So this list is playing 2 Fukus, a couple Pukies, this solid 2-drop package with the Galak, Astralink, Sprigion, some Stubbies, some Nobbits for some Tsunami control, a lot of Earthquakes with like Sanguar and Charlene, Cyclonius to control the board as well, and then a lot of ways to shrink enemy units and steal their units, so like things like Moon, things like Urgok, which lets you go 2 for 1 on their units, things like these Blight Oozes, and then you have the Fungal Spores cards to get some good value as well. So this is my Quake Sport control list. I think it's pretty good. The times I find it struggles is when your opponent is playing a deck that has a good amount of eggs, and they get like these really fast egg starts, and then they also back up their egg starts with the Vile Moth evolution line. So they have the Vile Grub, and the Vile Grub specifically is very hard to deal with because it can become so big that it demands you to use a Hex on it. But for 2 mana, it's really hard to like be able to do that. It's also, you also have to play around it a lot because the way that damage is dealt when you like use a Fungaroth, for example, the unit might not always die. It's really weird with the Fungaroth, so I'm not really sure. It's definitely a tricky one to use, or rather, a tricky card to answer for this deck. One list that I don't have for you today that I think is a good place to look is these like heavy egg decks that can go into the Vile evolution line, the Revival evolution line. I think there's a lot of good stuff going on there, but not in this deck. This deck does not have those. Let's take a look at some of the other decks that I've got for you guys. If you guys are looking to climb, I would recommend this or something like this. Maybe consider trying to add a few eggs. I don't think this list is complete by any means. I'm constantly changing around a couple cards at a time. And the other day I was experimenting with a list that was like really heavy eggs, and I'll actually show you that one next. I'm not suggesting to play this list. Let me be clear. I am not suggesting you should play this particular list I'm about to show you. But it's just an example of like an extreme idea that I've had where you just play these extremely egg-heavy decks. So we play like 2 Bruns, 2 Purples, 2 Fuchsias, 2 Teals, 2 Whites. And then literally, like some of these colors you only support. This version of the list I've cut them, but I at one point I was playing Lightning as well, and I was going into Zeus, and I would like burn people out with like Juju plus Zeus. Oh no, I think his name is Thor, not Zeus. But like you play Juju, Cyclonius, Thor, and you like ramp out these big cards really quickly, and you just burn them out and just beat them up real fast. The deck this deck is extremely explosive, but it's also extremely weak when it doesn't hit. And I find it very hard to get the numbers to work right. But I am like interested in this idea of like these decks that really try to abuse eggs, because what you can do is, and what I tried to do with this list is, you have this backbone of cheap Windseekers alongside these eggs, so you're like a core wind deck, but you can do things like play 1 white. Like this list plays 2 whites, but something I'm thinking more now is you just play 1 copy of the egg and then 1 copy of the card you're looking to evolve into. That way there's no excess. And you can do that for a couple of different elements. The only issue right now that I find is a lot of the things that you could go into aren't that good. Like some of the top end isn't very good. So like at one point I was playing Fire Eggs and I was going into the Satana. But every time I got Satana into play, I lost the game, because my opponent would take the Satana and I would lose the game. So it's like, while the idea worked in like concept, in practice, you work hard to get these big things into play, and your opponent just takes them and runs away with them. So this list is extremely experimental. This list is where a lot of my losses came from. I'll show you the other list where a lot of them came from as well, like tweaking and refining this. But I think there's something here. I think it's really weird. I think this is far from refined, and I think it's going to take a lot more time and probably more expansions, maybe, like more additional cards to go into. Because right now the top end that we can go into just isn't very good. Like, I really like the stuff that Dark has to offer with the boogers and the blight oozes. I think that's like actually really good. I like that we can go into like white into Juju, or like air into Cyclonius. But then after that, like fuchsia, like all I have fuchsia going into is like the Fukus. There's not too much that I really like in Cosmic. This list is really not great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not recommending you play this, but I am suggesting maybe tinker around with the idea of these decks that play eggs, with the idea to use the egg as an 100% guaranteed win seeker for a specific card, and then a way to cheat that specific card into play. I think that's the real thing I want you to take away from this deck. I don't want you to play this, but I want you to consider that that could be a possibility for some strategies you're playing later, that I think this could work for some decks. Not yet, though. Also, you'll notice this deck is named Boots. That's because originally, like, this deck was extremely experimental. Like, I can't be more clear, but, yeah. I was playing Boots, and the idea was that you could, like, play the Juju Winter Spear off of an egg, and then you give it Boots, and you can rush them for 21 damage from hand for 4 mana. So that was the idea of this deck, is, like, you just play these big things and just one or two, or not one or two, but like after a couple of big evolutions, I was hoping you could just kill them. And it did work sometimes, but it was not nearly consistent enough to really be something that I would write home about. But I do like, once again, I do like the idea of playing a single egg and a single card to go into off of that egg, and then win seeking into it. So, and then if the card is still good and playable, sometimes you draw the combo, sometimes you don't. And then with the egg, if the egg is dead and you can't use it, you could still maybe quantum shift, or not quantum shift into it, but you can still maybe like evolve the egg with like a Bofa Tinker Time or something like that, or just use the egg as just something that exists in play and threatens them. Alright, so now another deck I have been playing, extremely sketchy. I would not quite recommend this either. But this deck does catch people off guard. I have won a handful of games with this deck, and it's extremely aggressive. I play 2 copies of Aquafluffle, 2 copies of Boopasnoot, 2 copies of Earth Rock, which is just a 1 mana 3/2. This is the best 1-drop in the deck. And then things like Vroom, things like Fuku, things like these Geodes, so that you can buff up these 1-drop Aegises and just really start beating up and going to town, going face. We play 2 copies of Cheeky, 2 Ankias just as a solid 2-drop. Because I feel like you still need this like package of 2-drops that are still good to play on turn 2, and that's where the Ankia and the 1 Astraling come in. Is they're like solid actual 2-drops that can hold down the board. Whereas things like your Cheeky, your Jody, your Nippas, these things aren't quite holding down the board. They're just going face. So the idea is you want to just play these 1 and 2 mana Aegises to get the board in the early turns, and then just beat your opponent up as fast as you can. And then everything you're drawing in the deck is extreme amounts of reach after the Aegis cards. So you have these Aegises, and then you have reach. You have Fuku, which can steal something and do a lot of damage. You have Cheeky, which can do some solid damage. You have Nippa, which does 4 points of damage. Firon, which does 6. Dracora, which does another 4. These Ornofas deal 7. This is over 10% of their life total with 1 card. Barry, Slava, both deal 10% of their life. Thunder Eagle, and then Aqueon. Aqueon hits for 8. Thunder Eagle. This is the card I've been the most impressed with this deck. This Thunder Eagle, I was finding consistently hitting for over 10 to 12 damage. I think I once Thunder Eagled somebody for like 18 damage or something like that. Like, this card is excellent at closing out games, and I would say most of the games I won was due to the excessive amounts of reach that Thunder Eagle can provide. So I think there could be something nice here. I think not yet. I think Burn is still missing a lot of tools. I think the 1-drops in particular aren't good. I'm playing Aqua Fluffle, I'm playing Earth Rock, I'm playing Boopasnoot. None of these have evolutions that I can go into. None of them are like particularly good cards. They're just filler because nothing else exists. So I think Burn is unfortunately just not good right now. But I am still optimistic that like one day we will get a good Burn deck. And I think this Thunder Eagle is really good. Because he like really pressures them in an odd way. Because when you're playing a Burn deck, right? Your opponent needs to kill you as fast as possible because every turn you give them is every turn you give the Burn deck is another turn that the Burn deck can kill you faster or sooner. So you want to take time away from the Burn player. So you want to flood the board and kill them as fast as possible. But if you flood the board, you give the Thunder Eagle extra value. So the Thunder Eagle really puts them in a tough position. And I think that's why this card really stands out as a powerful Burn card. And the Aqueon, you know, it's cool. Like, it feels nice to hit people for like 8 damage, but then like they steal it and then you get cracked for 9. And you're immediately losing. That's the problem, dude. Is like some of these, the way that these early games tend to play out and these mid games tend to play out is like you'll be in an okay position and then they'll just steal something from you, and they'll just completely take all the wind out of your sails, and they outpace your damage very quickly. So it's just hard to play Burn right now. Yeah, these are just some of the lists I've been playing. Seriously, I wouldn't recommend playing the Burn deck. I would definitely not recommend playing the Boots deck. It's really not. It's questionable. I just want to keep you guys updated with like what I'm thinking about. But yeah, I think something like this is a place to be. And then what I really think is powerful, and like maybe we'll just like do a quick live building thing as well. I haven't built this deck. But I think it's like something like this that's pretty powerful. Where like you play this core of like the purple eggs, you play the air eggs, you play black, and then you play cosmic, and then you play the spore stuff like this. And then once you do that, then you just fill out the rest of the deck with like the good stuff. So it's like cosmic would be like, you play like the 2 Fukus, you play the Astralings. The problem is I'm like confident this is gonna go over the 35 cards what I'm trying to build. So I wouldn't say, it's just tricky, you know? But let's see how we can do this. We go for like air, and I think you do like these. You could play 2 of the Barricanes since you do have 2 of the Teals. I'm gonna just do 1. But you know, maybe 2 is proper. And then of course the Cycloniuses. You go for death. And from death you probably just take these ones up here. And then you take the Scoro, which is right over here. And then you have the dark stuff, which would be the Boogers and the Blight Oozes. And then something like this, I would say. Of course, we're at 37 cards. And we're also missing card draw, which is a little awkward. You could maybe even go down to like 1 teal. But like the thing is like teal is the strongest of all the eggs because you can go into an early Cyclonius. I don't know, how would I... You could go down to like 1 black maybe, because I feel like black is one of the weaker eggs. Because it's hard, a turn 1 black isn't actually great because you can't really go into what it's giving you. So maybe like this, maybe something like this is what I could suggest as well. And I think there's even, if you're looking for like more early game, you could definitely look at like the Vomenticle is very nice because it can go into purple. So like 2 Pukey, 2 Vomenticle also looks very good in this type of deck. I think there's something here. So this is here a surprise deck, something that I've had like kind of floating in my head, but I haven't actually built it. It would look something like this, and I haven't tested this obviously, I just built it right in front of you. But I think something like this could be very good, because you're leaning into that heavy egg synergy that the first deck that I was playing is missing, but you're keeping a lot of the strong things. You're keeping the Cyclonius, you're keeping these Blight Oozes, and then you're actually also gaining additional power with these Raised Deads. And specifically Demothra having 9 HP is huge, because just Cyclonius stuff can't kill it. So yeah, those are 4 decks I got for you. I'm probably going to give this deck a try on ladder, actually, right after this. And have a good one. I'll see y'all later.